folks, today I'm going to take you on this Service Dog in Training's first city and bus exposure trip. I'm going to show you how we handle a trip like this, how we introduce her to the bus, introductions to other components of city work, and how our first ride goes. These are the first critical steps to more challenging public transit, like subways and planes. You're getting a backstage pass to what a service dog training session looks like, how I structure a session, as well as what I think about when introducing a dog to a new place so that you can take what you see here and introduce your dog to new environments successfully.
Hi, I'm Laura from Dog EU, and I'm a certified guide dog mobility instructor, service dog trainer, and trick trainer with more than a decade and a half career in the service dog industry.
Today we'll be working with Navi, a 12-month-old poodle with lots of city exposure. She hasn't, however, been to this city or ridden a bus yet. So to start, we're purposefully parking about half a mile away from the bus depot. We want to give her time to burn off some energy, see the city, and get used to me handling with Casey filming, as Casey is her primary trainer, and someone walking behind and filming can be quite a distraction for a young dog. I start by getting her out of the car and simply reinforcing when she chooses to look at me over the environment or Casey. This is called offered attention. You can see that immediately as she gets out, there's lots of distractions, including this person sweeping on the sidewalk right around her. Notice that I don't ask for her attention. I wait for her to offer that attention and then mark and reinforce it. As I continue to do this, she'll look at me over the environment much more quickly. We always practice this away from distractions first so she can be successful, and then take the game on the road so that even in new and distracting environments, she understands that offering her attention is always desirable. Once I'm happy with her focus, we begin walking. Navi's only a year old or so, and a noodle of a dog. It's easy for her to swivel her head and look back at Casey, so I'm offering a high rate of reinforcement, meaning that I'm marking and rewarding at a higher rate than is typical for her right now for good healing in a difficult environment. When I ask more of the dog, or I level up a skill, I always increase my rate of reinforcement temporarily so they can be successful. For her age, she really is solid around all the noises, people, and traffic, which is exactly what we're looking for with a service dog. We want a dog that barely notices the hustle and bustle of a city. Before we get to the bus depot and consider a bus ride, we want to give her a chance to use the bathroom so there's no chance of an accident. To do that, I find a dirt patch, lengthen her leash, and give her her busy cue. Note that we kept the vest on for her, but if you're concerned at all about your dog doing inappropriate relieving behavior like marking in vest, take it off for all potty trips to help differentiate. Now we head to the bus station. I purposefully chose this location because the drivers take a break for around 8 to 10 minutes every time they come around to the station. This gives me 8 to 10 minutes to practice entering and exiting the bus with Navi. I want her familiar with the bus at a standstill and entering and exiting calmly before ever deciding to take a ride. If she isn't meeting those criteria, we either wait for another bus to come around to practice with and then hop on that one, or we don't ride that day and do more prep work. We move at the dog's pace, not our own time schedules. There's nothing to be gained by pushing an uncomfortable dog into a situation they aren't prepared to handle. We didn't get the bus approach on film because I was working on training revolving doors while we waited. You can check out the video showing you how to train revolving doors down in the description below. But the bus parked, I asked the driver if we could practice for a few minutes, and they left to take a break, so we had the bus all to ourselves. I don't ask much of these young service dogs in training to start, just to hop on in a relatively controlled manner and check it out. Eventually I'd like the dog to pause with me, or even to practice sitting before entering to prevent pulling onto the bus. But at first, I just want them to hop on and feel the different elevation and textures of the bus. We don't go all the way onto the bus yet. I just get used to entering and exiting without being overly rushed. Ultimately, we don't want a dog that tries to drag us onto or off of the bus. I use a hand touch to focus her at the threshold before she walks off. This is how I start introducing a pause at the down threshold. Then I cue her with the known cue of "let's go" to let her know we're moving, and then I step off. And hey, if you're finding value in this video so far, I would love for you to positively reinforce me by heading on down and booping that like button. Doing so lets me know that you want more videos like this one and helps others find the channel. Cool Lip, Jake, and I would really appreciate it. After I'm comfortable with her entry and exit, we make our way fully onto the bus. I let her take in the new smells and sights of the bus. Giving her treats like I am here at the seat is totally a holdover from my days working as a guide dog trainer. If we ever want her to find a seat for her handler on the bus, we can use back chaining to help guide her to a seat. This dog is not a guide dog, however, but old habits die hard, apparently. Now we take a look around the empty bus. I reinforce for attention, but allow her to have a look around so she can get comfortable with her surroundings. Someone walks on, so we have an additional distraction to contend with, but Navi does well. I want to be clear that choosing this empty stationary bus was a deliberate choice. We are setting Navi up for success and can move her to busier buses later in the training. We then practice some of her known obedience cues with sits, downs, and halts, and I reinforce. When I'm happy with that, we enter and exit the bus a few more times. A second bus pulls in, so we watch and feed for attention. Buses can be loud and scary for many dogs. Be sure to go at their pace. We head back to the bus, but she gets super excited to see Casey, so we reset and feed for halting. We hop on and now work on finding a seat and settling. I guide Navi into a closed position and gently slide her backwards and reinforce. I don't want her long limbs hanging out into the aisle. This is definitely something to practice, as sometimes you're going to have to gently physically maneuver your dog to slide them out of harm's way. Alternatively, she could do a down and under in a sideways position, or stay seated, but it all depends on the bus you're riding. At the same time, the other person on the bus starts asking questions. This is super typical, and Navi has to get used to people talking to us while we're still settling. It's really helpful for you as the handler to either get used to multitasking or saying something like, "I'm so sorry, I can't talk right now as I need to put all of my attention on training my dog." I go ahead and speak with this curious woman, and at the same time I heavily reinforce Navi for this new position under the seat. We then repeat this whole procedure again. Doing a close behavior where Navi gets between my legs is a newer behavior to Navi, as her handler tends to do a down and under. I use a lure to get her into this position, but she clearly needs more practice at home and away from the bus to get this behavior solid before applying it in real-world scenarios. If you want to learn how to train this really useful position, you should check out my Patreon at patreon.com/doggyu. For just $3 a month, you get access to my private video library of more than 150 training videos you can't find here on YouTube, plus a monthly live Q&A to get your questions answered, all while supporting the creation of these free videos. I would love to see you there. I then free her and we practice our under cue, which Navi is very well practiced in. If your dog had a tail, you'd also want to practice tucking the tail under their back leg to prevent them from being stepped on. Navi cutely offers her chin rest behavior in this position. I love to mark and reward these offered behaviors. Anything you reward, they will generally offer more of. We then practice working through some other seat configurations on the bus. This one is challenging because the entire space under the seat is blocked. I show Navi that she can still sit in front of me, similar to on a plane, using my leg to block her butt from laying in the aisle. She figures it out and then lays down in the available space. At this point, I'm not super fussy about position, as we want her mostly to feel comfortable on the bus. We're all super hot at this point and hoping the bus and the AC will kick on soon. Fortunately, the bus starts and we're ready to go. I show Casey my scooching back of the dog and feeding, and then we're on our way. Just like with a plane, I feed heavily for the takeoff, or the beginning of the ride. Everyone cheers, including the lady who was speaking to us earlier. The actual riding of the bus was pretty uneventful. Here I explain how I will hold the dog's collar or harness when the bus turns so that they don't feel like they're going to slide. I also do this on takeoff and landing of the plane and support them with my legs and feet. One thing we know will happen is that people want to walk by. Here you can see Navi is trying to air scent the person coming on the bus. I feed as the person comes by while simultaneously hooking my thumb in her collar so she can't make an error. Sniffing is a common problem people have with their young service dogs, so I simply feed during the walk by, and eventually the dog will look up at me when a person walks by, expecting a reinforcer, and ignoring the passerby. Here you can see when the woman leaves that I have a much smaller reaction, and she is even able to disengage and look up at me. With enough practice, she won't care that anyone is exiting or entering. Alternatively, I could have rode her in the back of the bus where she'd have less of a chance of interactions for her first ride. However, I know this bus has a low ridership, so I was comfortable with exposing her to these small challenges. I won't show you too much more of the ride. Navi does well and goes from a small amount of nervousness to relaxing with her head down by the end of the ride. This is the perfect time to exit, so we hop off. We then practice exiting and entering a few more times before heading out. Here, Navi tried to get back on the bus. I would never correct for behavior like this because I have zero interest in her being concerned about getting onto the bus, which could easily happen if I corrected her at this threshold. Instead, I simply reset and try again, and she's successful. With that, we head away from the buses, do a few minutes of working on doors, and head home. On the walk home, we take Navi's vest off and give her her free cue, which means she can walk at her own pace, sniff, and decompress after some awesome city work. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more about training your own service dog, check out my Service Dog 101 course that was just released. You'll learn all about service dog laws, choosing a service dog prospect, how to handle public interactions, and so much more. You can check that out at the link below. And if you found this video helpful, you'll definitely like this one too, so you should click on it now. You all have an awesome day and happy training!